Are there any other German verbs that are more useful than lassen? Maybe, but lassen is kind of like the multi-tool of the German sentence. We can use it to express so much. Today, we're going to dive into the fascinating world of this all-purpose verb, lassen. Grüß Gott, hallo, ich bin Billy Badger und das ist Bausteine 3. Hier nehmen wir die deutsche Sprache auseinander und zeigen, wie man sie clever und sinnvoll wieder zusammensetzt. Heute geht es um Sätze mit dem Verb lassen. Los geht's! Now, since we can do so much with the verb lassen, we're going to need to go about this logically. So we've got three main things we need to look at. We'll have sentences where lassen is the only verb. And then we've got those more nuanced sentences that use lassen along with another verb. And finally, there are those sentences where lassen is used reflexively with another verb. And that's probably it. We'll see if we can point out any other uses as we go along. So let's start with lassen all by itself in a sentence. Now, used like this, where lassen is the main verb and the only verb, lassen often indicates that we're leaving something, maybe physically leaving something behind. I'll give you a couple of examples, but there's something important to point out here that I'll come back to. Ich lasse mein Handy im Haus, wenn ich laufen gehe. Or, sie lässt den Hund vor dem Geschäft, wenn sie einkaufen geht. In both of these examples, we're using lassen as the equivalent of to leave. And the focus, our focus, is on the thing that is being left behind. It's almost as if we're making a film and the camera stays focused on the object of the sentence rather than the subject. Compare this then with that other verb, verlassen, where the focus is perhaps more on the subject and the leaving is often of a more permanent nature. Ich verlasse mein Haus. If we're making a film, then the action follows me, even though in English, the verb we'd use is still the verb to leave. Similarly, sie verlässt das Geschäft. She leaves the shop. Our focus is not on what's being left behind, the house or the shop, but on the subject doing the leaving. This is a literal meaning of the verb lassen, but we can have more abstract uses where lassen doesn't mean to physically leave something, but to leave something in its previous condition or to leave something more abstractly. And this becomes clearer, I think, in some examples. Lass das, das ist nervend. Well, that's one way. You're asking someone to stop what they are doing. In a way, you want them to abandon an action, to stop doing it, to leave you in your previous condition. You might even hear them say, lass mich in Ruhe. Leave me alone or leave me in peace. Somewhat less dramatically, it can be something you maybe want to pause, postpone or stop temporarily. Christina repariert eine Geige.
Die Reparatur ist noch nicht ganz fertig. Ich lasse es für heute und mach's morgen fertig.
She's going to leave it for now and finish repairing the violin tomorrow. Or, die Nudeln sind noch nicht durch. Wir lassen sie vielleicht noch eine Minute. We'll leave them another minute. So we can use lassen as the main and the only verb in sentences in fairly literal ways or indeed in more abstract ways. But we're getting now to examples where it starts to make more sense to use lassen with another verb. In this way, we're simply giving more information about how the thing is being left. For example, I could have said, die Nudeln sind noch nicht durch. Wir lassen sie vielleicht noch eine Minute kochen. Here, our verb lassen is more equivalent perhaps to let rather than to leave. We're going to let them cook for another minute. But we're also saying we're going to leave them cooking away for another minute. So the meaning is much the same. And we can form other sentences with other verbs to give more precise information. For example, ich lasse das Auto vor dem Haus stehen. Here we're leaving the car in a standing position, well, because it makes sense. Cars don't lie or hang, they stand. You can see that lassen behaves a little bit like a modal verb, since our second verb is just in the infinitive form. Now, occasionally the meaning is slightly modified, like in this example. And pay attention to what happens in the past tense. Oh nein, ich habe mein Handy im Café liegen lassen. I left my cell phone lying in the cafe. Or this could really be the equivalent of I forgot my phone. I left it in the cafe. So more of an accidental thing rather than something that you might have done on purpose. Here again, in the past tense, we can see lassen behaving a bit like a modal verb, with just the infinitive following the action verb rather than some kind of participle. Well, the examples so far use the verb lassen mostly as an equivalent of to leave, but we can use it as a more obvious equivalent of the verb to let or to allow, like in these examples. Sie lässt mich nicht helfen. She won't let me help. Or lässt mich nicht reden. He doesn't let me speak. Or wir lassen den Hund auf dem Bett schlafen. We let the dog sleep on the bed. So in each case, we're using lassen as a way of expressing what we allow, which is pretty handy. But just as often, you'll see the verb used in a different way. Let me show you what I mean. Christine lässt sich die Haare schneiden. In this example, Christina is the subject and schneiden, or to cut, is the verb. But the subject, Christina, is not the one who is doing the cutting. This is being done by a third party, by someone else. So this is a really good structure to use when you're talking about what you can get other people to do for you, or have other people do for you. For example, if your car needs new tires, you'll probably get them fitted. Du lässt die Reifen wechseln, weil die alten abgefahren sind. This is not something you're doing yourself, even though you are the subject in the sentence, but you are the one who is allowing someone else to do it, getting someone else to do it, or maybe having someone else do it for you. So you could say, du lässt den Rasen mähen. You're having your lawn mowed. Or lässt das Auto waschen. He gets his car washed. But lassen has even more tricks up its sleeve. When used as a reflexive verb, it can act as a kind of passive substitute. Here, the focus is on the action being possible or happening, rather than who is doing it. For example, das Rad ist kaputt. Es lässt sich überhaupt nicht reparieren. Or das ist zu schwer, es lässt sich nicht lösen. Or das Buch lässt sich sehr leicht lesen. In each of these cases, we're concentrating on the possibility of the action being carried out rather than the person carrying out the action. So lassen is really a multifunction tool that we can use in lots of different ways. But I'll bet you can think of another clever way to use lassen. If so, let me know in the comments below. And if this helped you, don't forget to like and subscribe and do all those fancy YouTubey kind of things. Danke fürs Zuschauen. Ich hoffe, es hat dir geholfen und dass wir uns in dem nächsten Video sehen. Ich freue mich. Auf Wiedersehen und tschüss.